Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Thursday Takeaway. We're continuing our series on the book of Jonah. Last week, Pastor Paul gave us an overview of it, and this week we're going to look at chapter 1. In chapter 1, we can see that there's a key aspect in this, that there is something that can challenge us and speak to each and every one of us about our daily lives, and it's found in verse 3. Jonah chapter 1 and verse 3 starts by saying this: "But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed towards Tarshish." Now, we may read this book and we may start to be judgmental about Jonah, but if we're honest, every single one of us have found ourselves in an uncomfortable situation, facing something that's challenging or something that we're really uncertain or perhaps even fearful about, and we are seriously considering ducking out from what we know is what we should do. Something we've all done in the past, something we've perhaps even done in the recent days, but it's almost certainly something we will do again in the future. But the thing is, why do we do that? Why do we try to duck out, avoid the situation, or run away from it, even as Jonah did? Well, sometimes those reasons, they could be because of confrontation, or it could be because of a challenge, it could be a lack of understanding. Sometimes it's something that's very personal or very private, or something that could in actual fact be very, very public. What is it that makes us fearful or uncertain about what's in front of us and about the outcome of what we know we need to do but we don't want to do? For Jonah, in his situation, it was actually none of these things, because he knew exactly what it was he had to do. He knew who was calling him to do it, and he knew why it had to be done. He knew all the facts about the situation and about his issue, but he just did not like those people, the Assyrian people, because he knew that if God was to speak to them and they were to repent, he knew that God would be likely to stop doing or bringing about those actions of judgment he was calling out against that city of Nineveh. Jonah did not like that. The Assyrians had a reputation for being merciless and cruel, and he just felt they deserved everything that they got, and he did not want God to show them forgiveness. He did not want them to know grace being given to them from God. And that's why he was in this situation, and that's why he wanted to run. The problem with the running was that it didn't just affect Jonah. Because as we read in that chapter, we read that Jonah ran, he got in a boat, he managed to get travel to somewhere else. But as soon as he was on that boat, those sailors were brought into the middle of his situation, his problem and his difficulty. Not just the sailors, but their livelihoods, because they threw their cargo overboard, and they got to the point where they felt they were all going to die. It wasn't just Jonah now, but it was those who were around about him and those who were closest to him who were also involved in this situation. When he ran from God, he took himself out of God's plan, and that is when trouble began. At first it seemed okay, it looked that things were going well, but now he was in an even worse situation. Instead of just him, this whole group of sailors were now also involved. And so it is with us. When we become disobedient, when we do things that we're not supposed to, very often it's not just us, but those around about us, those who are closest to us, who get involved in it as well. And these sailors, they were willing to risk their own lives to help Jonah out. But all that would do would draw them deeper and deeper into this situation. They wanted to help Jonah. They wanted to help him do what he wanted to do, even though it wasn't what God wanted. And then Jonah came to his senses. He knew what he had to do. God perhaps spoke to him again. And as soon as the sailors threw him overboard, they were released from that situation they were in. Because we read that the storm dispelled, the sea grew calm, but Jonah was still in the middle of it. This second time, Jonah knew what had to be done. It was another difficult situation, another hard choice, but he did the right thing. And as he did the right thing, he saw that those things that were a problem started to come together and started to be what they needed to be. The sailors were released. Jonah was still in the middle of it, but God's plan was coming back into place. You know, very often when we look at this, we can sometimes judge Jonah. But you know, we're all the same. We've all done this at some point or another, and probably it will do again in the future. But what we need to kind of take from this story is that failure to obey leads to situations and circumstances that very often don't just affect us, but those around us and those close to us, and it ends up being a lot more costly. At my work, we have a thing that's called do the right thing. And the purpose of that is that if we see something that someone is doing or something or a situation that looks unsafe, we are empowered to go up to whoever and talk to them about what they're doing and just check that all the safety aspects are right. And you know, and it's very similar, because this is what, if we do the right thing when God calls us to, we will stop ourselves from getting into difficulties and problems further down the line like Jonah did. So in this next week, let's all of us practice doing the right thing. Let's all of us make that extra effort to do the right thing, to do what we know we should do, even when it is hard or difficult and we may want to duck out of it. Let's just give ourselves firmly over to God, trusting God that when He calls us to do something, that He will take us into it and through it. He will help us, He will guide us, He will be with us, and we will be at the centre of what He wants. Life has enough troubles of its own without us adding to them needlessly by our own actions. Jonah ran from God, planned to ignore Him, but in the end he couldn't escape. So let's all try our best this week not to get ourselves into the same situation. Let's not run away, but walk with God. God bless you, and God be with you.